All right, I'm here today with Jacquelyn Lane, and we're so excited. Partly because she's from New Zealand, and New Zealand is close to my heart. I spent some time there in the
Oh, good.
80s. Yes, and loved it. And it's so great for us to get input and connections with other parts of the planet. That just feels really important right now. And so she will be teaching the May workshop. So I'm wondering, my first question is, how did you first come to connect to the subtle realm? Like, how did it sort of, reach out and call to you?
Well, I can very distinctly remember as a little girl um, looking for the fairies in the grass because we lived next to a playing field. It was a rugby field in the winter and a cricket field in the summer. And it was on the edge of what they call in Wellington, which is New Zealand's capital city, what they call the town belt. In other words, a green space, right? So the whole of Wellington is very hilly and it's separated by these lovely green belts. And so there were two parks and surrounded by hills. So my brother and I had lots of wonderful stuff to play with, a creek with crawlies in it, etc. So yeah, I was always looking for the fairies in the grass. But realistically, as far as really connecting is concerned, that was probably with my friend Karen. She's in the book. She grew up in a household where these kinds of connections with nature spirits and Deva, etc., uh, were just a matter of course. She was one of five children. And she and I were friends, and she knew that I was interested. So it was probably in the early 1980s. Yeah, about then. So that's when I started going out with her in our local area, and she would ask me to tune into something, ask me what I saw. So it was a feedback system. So it was her confirming that what I felt, what I saw, yeah, that whole thing, um, that I was on the right track, as it were. And that was how it started. And that's actually a really good way to work with people in a workshop setting too, if
Yes.
you're all together physically.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that confirmation, we have found that doubt in what you're getting is the biggest it just stops the flow.
Yes,
If you
yes,
get something and then you immediately doubt it, it's like, yeah, you're just
yes.
killing it.
But
Yeah.
when you've got that confirmation of somebody you trust, um, and I've done a lot of traveling with two friends. One just passed recently, but and also my friend Linda. We travelled together in Australia. It's how I met Linda actually, and the aim was to the whole trip was to travel through the various areas and to tune in and to do any healing work if that was required, but mainly to tune in. And that power of three was really good. So we would find that, and this is quite important really, when you do work in a small group like that and you do some healing work or whatever, you will very often get a response from nature, a physical response, right? Now, what we've often experienced is significant birds on our journey there, right? Hawks on every, third or second post or whatever, or native pigeons. We have a really big native pigeon here. It's very colourful. flying in front of you where you not normally see them, and those kinds of things. So, and often at the end of doing some work with land, we would get in Australia, it was wind. We'd get this whirly wind happen.
Mm-hmm.
In New Zealand, um, it's happened here in New Zealand too. The last workshop I did was with people. We got a nice little wind come down a wee gully. Yeah, just those kinds of things. But in New Zealand, it's also big birds,
Mm-hmm.
unusual birds.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Those are common for me too, both birds and wind.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm.
hear people. And so can you just give us a taste of what this workshop will cover?
Well, what I'd like to emphasize to begin with is how we can sensitize our physical body and the subtle body, which is, surrounding our physical body, to what's going on in the landscape, so that when we're out in nature, or it doesn't matter whether it's a city or a country landscape like I've got here, or something in a more wilderness setting, that we can turn off the sort of talking part and turn on the feeling part, so that our entire body becomes like a bit of a Geiger counter in a way to the vibrations. And some simple exercises, I think, that people who are not so confident to do that is simply to stand with friends across the room, hold your hands up, walk, or have one person stand with their back to you, and you go up to them with your hands up, and the person who is in the corner says when they can feel you getting closer. So
Mm-hmm.
those kinds of
Yeah,
exercises can really help to sensitize the body.
right.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that I think that's the first thing that I think is so important.
Yeah.
And the other is that comes from that sensitization, is then you get more sensitive to the subtle things that are going on around you, you start noticing that there are birds everywhere, that you don't normally see them, or whizzing in front of you, or that there's just something going on that perhaps is a little different from normal. So yeah, observation, learning to observe what's going on around you, because we tend in our normal daily lives to be going to the shops, we're thinking about the shopping list, we're thinking about where to park, we're thinking about all those things, but we often don't have much time today to just stop, feel what's going on around us, feel how the land is, feel how the trees are, all that kind of stuff that people normally used to do. I'm reading a book called The Beginning of Everything
Hmm.
at the moment. It's on anthropology, and anthropology was one of my favorite subjects at university. And it's kind of blowing away some of the assumptions we've had about how people lived way back, and the idea that, they worked all day long. Well, they didn't actually.
Right. Right.
Um, they had a much easier work life in terms of the length of time that they worked. This is going, back before the Industrial Revolution, than we would think. And today, we're being pushed far, or constrained far more in terms of the available free time that we've got. So making that free time is free here and everywhere else, I think it's really important. And it's
Right.
quite hard to resist the temptation
Yeah.
to be diverted from that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I've been finding that even for myself. But I am, yes, I'm noticing more these days. Like, okay, how much time am I, um, I don't know, frivoling away, getting distracted? Yeah,
Mm.
and
Yeah. Do we really need to see the news every night?
I know. Yes. All
Yeah.
right. Well, so the workshop is Saturday, May 21st, and one time change, it's at 11 a.m. Pacific time because Jacqueline is in New Zealand, so that works out better for all of
And
us.
what time is that for me?
I think we said that's 7 a.m. for you.
7. Oh, that's much more civilized than
Yeah,
6. Okay.
yes, yes.
All right. I might be able to see to brush my untamable hair.
All right. All right.
All
So,
right.
thanks
I
so
look
much.
forward to
Yeah,
talking.
yeah.
Yeah.
Be great. Thanks so much.